How's it going? How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Future of the Music Industry podcast. Again, it is the leadership of NCEG being joined today by a special guest that we have today, Juju McLean. We are going to be talking about how the A&R focus within the entertainment industry has shifted in the recent years in the streaming era, what kind of adjustments have needed to be made, and personally for me, kind of kicking this off and getting straight into it. For all of you, obviously, what changes do you think have occurred post-COVID that kind of representatives in the A&R field have had to kind of adapt to in this now hyper kind of digital streaming kind of remote conversational age?
On me?
Yeah, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let Juju start it as the expert.
I think A&Rs now have to, like, post-COVID, you had to learn how to do the research. Well, most A&R departments actually added a research team after COVID, because during COVID, when everybody was at home, you had a chance to sit there and you could find stuff on your own. But now with it being so diluted, it takes more for you to go find it. It's stuff in the weeds. So most companies added an actual research department, and the research department is like everybody has their own tools and methods they use, like whether it's Solar Tone, Chartmetric, of course media based still, but yeah, like everybody uses their own different programs and their own different systems and philosophies to find new talent.
So like speaking on that, like, because hearing about it, you hear a lot about how like it's so like heavily data driven. Like, would you say that really is the case? I mean, I know with you being at UnitedMasters, I know you can really only speak from like your own perspective, but even like colleagues and stuff like that, like, is it all like really data, or are there kind of like still some intangible things that like A&Rs look at?
No, I mean, it's actually shifted away from being data driven now, because data can only get you so far. Data doesn't show how talented somebody is. So data only shows you if people are connecting with it. It doesn't show you if the artist has longevity or they have ability to actually build a brand. So you don't actually like necessarily like, if anything, if it doesn't have data, it's something that you can get on early. It actually is more beneficial for you, because you can gain more equity in it, and you can actually build something from the ground up.
Understandable. Yeah, makes sense. And before we go forward here, I did want to just kind of clarify for people that don't know. Juju, if you don't mind explaining, can you tell our members and most importantly our students what kind of people that work in the A&R field actually do? I think there's a lot of kind of misnomers that go along with the position and kind of the field of work in general. Can you kind of shine some light on what just an A&R does and kind of the responsibilities therein?
Yeah, so what's crazy is, like, I just had this conversation with a couple of my buddies that work at different labels and been in the business, but every company has their own versions of A&Rs, but every company has to have multiple types of A&Rs. Like, you have the research A&Rs, like I just talked about, who are able to go and understand data, understand, like, see spikes in streaming, see spikes in social growth, and understand where it's coming from. You have your outside A&R who like stays outside, has their ear on the streets, has a finger on the pulse of the culture, so they know what's going on and what's moving around. Then you got the person who can mix both of those things together, and like they can do a little bit of research, but they can go outside. They have the relationships, and then you have your older A&Rs who have like all the relationships, to where it's like you have an artist now that's starting to pop. That artist now needs to get bigger records or bigger production, bigger writing, bigger like everything has to go to the next level. You have the A&R who's more experienced, who can bring that type of value. So every team to build a solid core, you have to have all aspects covered.
Understandable. Yeah, and Atlas, kind of building off of the first question that I asked, kind of post-COVID, I know we've been kind of leaning harder and harder on technology to kind of fill the gaps in when we couldn't actually be so face-to-face. And obviously, kind of being in the Artists and Repertoire field is a very like in your face kind of face-to-face communication kind of field. has tech, do you think, caught up to just how reliant we've been in kind of this webinar, kind of web meeting, kind of post-COVID field of study now that we can't always be in the same room and even schedule meetings like we used to back in the day?
No, because I think that with A&R, and like the most important part of A&R that I think is starting to come back, and it's like everybody's is pushing for it to come back, is making of the records. Like the first thing an A&R is supposed to do is make the record. And like you're supposed to, if you identify the talent, develop the talent, and create the music, and then from there you make the brand, and then you make the artist, and then you make there's other components that go into it after that. But I think now with tech like they try to say like, oh, you have AI making music and doing. It doesn't matter. AI will never catch up to human interaction. So like, if I can identify something in an artist, star quality, AI is not advanced enough to be like, okay, understand social cues and what's going on in culture to create a plan to take that artist to the next level or understand what the next variation of that sound needs to be. So like, I think it hasn't caught up from that aspect, but I mean, from the aspect of everyday interaction, I honestly can do my job without ever going to office. So, I mean, if anything, it's helped me do my job a little bit more efficiently.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. That's something that we debate about a lot within the music community and the tech community, and even amongst ourselves. Like AI is really just a better Pro Tools. It's not really taking anybody's job. It's just a better tool at the end of the day, and it's best to be looked at as something that humans can use to optimize their ability to get their work done, not a replacer of sorts. Because we used to have that same argument. I use Pro Tools as an example. We used to have that same argument with Pro Tools. You know, there were all the old heads when I went to college were like, oh man, this is going to replace this is going to replace how we used to do it. And it's not the case. You still need a competent person behind the board just as much as you do now. Like AI is just making it
like ChatGPT. Like I have a subscription to ChatGPT, and the reason I do it is because like literally, if somebody's like, hey, I need to create a marketing plan for this artist, like, all right, cool, give me the details of what you want to do for the marketing plan. Let me actually put in some of the things that I know that they're needed, like from experience, and add that to what I can do with AI. And now I can give you a marketing plan in 6 minutes of like, it's what it looks like for the next 3 months. It's what it looks like for the next 6 months. So like, I think it's more so like you have to know how to use the program. Like one of my homies from Google, she was like 98% of people don't know how to actually properly Google. Like you don't know how to ask a question to Google. She was like, so like when they realized that they had to start teaching people how to actually use Google, how to ask a question. They're like, most people don't understand what they want to ask. They'll ask a basic question, but don't understand that you have to put actual detail into the question to get the answer that you want.
Very true.
Especially now with everything being with Google in mind, being so driven towards like commerce and things like that. Like if you're vague, they just gonna show you the first thing that like, as a purchase option for what it is that may be related to what you're looking for, not necessarily the information for what it is that you're actually looking for.
Totally.
So I think that really kind of like goes into like the next part about what it is that we're here to talk about, right? Like, when with us working with students and this whole process of us creating this environment where students can separate the real from the perceived, right? Like doing more than just reading about things in a book, asking ChatGPT or even Googling and really getting their hands like dirty with regards to like, artistry, creativity, artist development, and even A&R work. We're entering into the week of our program where our students are about to be doing their auditions, right? Like they're going to be conducting auditions on all of the different campuses that we have, and they're going to be looking for this talent. So you have all these students who they see themselves as aspiring A&Rs, and they're going to be trying to find the best talent that they can. What advice would you give to them for actually like discerning promising talent in the first place, knowing that their role is going to be to find talent on campus, to do shows, help build that artist brand and recognition on campus? Like, how should they approach this from an A&R standpoint?
So I'm gonna tell you the truth. if I can go back, I probably wouldn't go and be an A&R. I'll be the head of the label, right?
Mm.
Like,
Okay.
or I'll be the production company. I'll be the company that helps develop the artists, take the artists, sign the artists, get them to the point where now they need funding, and then go partner with somebody to distribute it. Like, because that's A&R as well. However, I think like students now, like you have a chance to, if you're getting with an artist early, like really lock in with that artist. Because once you lock in with that artist, like Michael Jackson wouldn't be anything without Quincy. Like
Yeah,
that's it would never happen. Like Drake wouldn't be anything without 40. Like there's different levels you can get in with an artist where it's like you are like literally like you're the backbone to that artist. So like being an A&R, like, and there's gonna come some point in time where you're not gonna be like, even if you sign something, you still have to go by what the building says for the artist. Like they can approve your budget, whether it's your production, whether it's your marketing budget, your recording budget, you still have to get this stuff approved. Whereas if you're like partnering with the artist and you partner with somebody, now you're just like, no, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it. So like I would still take the approach of like of the A&R mentality, but I'll turn it into the ownership mentality of it instead of just saying I'm gonna go be an A&R for a company, because like I said, you don't have you have power to a certain extent, because you still have to operate by the system and processes that were built before you.
Agreed. I think that's a good testament also just to how hands-on they're going to have to be prepared to be in whatever section of leadership that they're going to be in general in their chapter, but particularly in that of the A&R. We have seen that kind of run out of control before, where a chapter has 15, 16 certified entertainers, and there's just not enough kind of oxygen on that campus to support that many artists. That is a problem that the A&R department can fix. But it's not going to be fixable unless the members and the management within the A&R department for that campus kind of recognize that there was kind of an overshift and kind of course correct in that way. So I think from what the students are going to have to deal with on a semester to semester basis is making sure that you understand how much even organized talent, how much talent your campus can hold without people getting overshadowed and ultimately work kind of getting lost in the waves.
And I think it's also worth mentioning something else that Juju mentioned, like as far as like the mentality of it, because at the end of the day, they are at the ground level, right? Like they are working with these artists very early before they're anybody, if we're being honest. So thinking about it as less of quote unquote A&R and more of like
you're a stakeholder,
a producer, exactly. Be a stakeholder, be a producer, be, you know what I'm saying, a record creator, right? Like, you know, it's like, yeah, we refer to it in terms of the categories of it. We call it the A&R department, but it's really about, again, tapping in with those artists, finding artists that you believe in on that campus and making something shake for real, not just having a whole bunch of people and waiting for them to do something. Like, no, like getting proactive and making the type of music that you think that artist is capable of making and having the type of impact that you think that artist is capable of having.
You know, you guys brought up something that was really important, and I would love to get Juju's perspective on it. But we talked about this in I think our last executive meeting with the student leaders, how if you have talent, let's just say you have two campuses, right? You have talent that would do really well in another campus's market, right? And it's the concept of like, I have a bunch of, we have a bunch of great artists on our campus, but our campus doesn't support what this artist might do, but another campus might. And so you're kind of sharing that artist with another particular chapter, because that other chapter might have a network for that or might have a market for that. And that's kind of a mimicry of real life, how since the quarantine, we've seen a lot of conversation and a lot of new niche markets pop up and a lot of niche interests pop up. I would really love to know, like, how are A&Rs handling all the fringe genres and subgenres that have been popping up and have created a level of viability for themselves through fandom, through community, whatnot, and what have you. Because our students are going to be dealing with a version of that at a smaller scale, but a version of that on their campuses as well. And we're already starting to see that now.
Yeah, I mean, I think in that instance, the students have to like really build out their community, because so the reality is that we get like people come to us all the time like, oh, you guys are only signing stuff that's going viral, or you're signing stuff based on numbers, and it's like that's not the case. But in giving and allocating resources and allocating money, I still have to make a business decision, right? I can't go and like if somebody only has 50 monthly listeners and they're like, I got the hottest song in the world. It's like, bro, you don't have the hottest song in the world technically. So I think that when these niches are popping up, like I think for me, like I give you a great example just from how I operate. I took on the market, I took on an Afrobeat market, right? And the thing about Afrobeats, you could probably name 10 to 15 Afrobeat artists and they're massive, right? But the problem is that the correlation of streaming is still not comparable to United States, Europe, or parts of Asia. Like it's just not comparable. So like even if I have an artist that's doing 100 million streams, that 100 million streams is only equivalent to 10 million streams in the United States. So it's like it should be like it's still 100 million people listening to it, but DSPs don't look at it because the conversion rates and the currencies, like you have to start going into understanding the economics of these places. They don't operate the same way. So like when it comes to these niche markets, like Afrobeats is not a niche market. That's a major market. However, the streaming is still not correlated as being major. So like when it comes to the artists in these niche markets and they're popping up, like I can go sign it. But the reality of me signing is like I'm not gonna be able to put a huge budget behind it, because if it hasn't shown a proof of concept in the community at all, then it's like I'm taking the first gamble and the first risk on it, and there's no telling when it's gonna pay out. So I might have 3 chances to take a risk, and that one risk might be a $75,000 to a $300,000 risk. But if I make like a $300,000 risk there, now I got to go sign something with big numbers, because I got to sign something that can keep the lights on while I sit here and work on this project over here. That's like maybe it's gonna work in 6 months, maybe it's gonna work in a year, but I believe in it.
Man, that is super insightful.
No, it really reminds me a lot how I really don't like doing this parallel, but it really reminds me of how the startup community works.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what it is.
How VCs leverage early stage and late stage investment or companies on which ones they want to invest in. Like if you catch an early stage company before they've taken on any additional investment, because you know that you can put them in the right market for them to shine, it's a risk because they're not proven. They might not have a whole lot of customers, or they might not have a whole lot of time in the market, but it's a calculated risk because you can kind of stack the deck in your favor. But those late stage or those seed round companies, they've been doing it for a minute. They're a little proven in the marketplace. They're a lot less risky, but you also got to come with more money at the table if you're going to get the return on investment you're looking at. And it just parallels perfectly exactly what we experience in the tech world and in the venture side.
So with that, in that particular case, then it is about seeing these artists as, I mean, we talk about it all the time, but seeing them as a product, like them having to recognize that they are indeed a product, and their job right now is to increase as much as they can the valuation of their product, the value of their brand, the amount of money that people are willing to pay for their brand, like those sorts of things. So like I guess in that case, my last question, because we would be remiss if we didn't ask this question, since we have Juju from UnitedMasters. What is, in your opinion, the thing that these students, these artists should be doing, like over the course of this next year, in order to get on your radar, to get on like UnitedMasters radar? Like, what do they need to do to put in that work, and what sort of numbers do they need to show? What side of motion do they need to show? What should they be working towards?
I don't think it's necessarily numbers. I think it's build community. Like if you build community, I can find community. Like I can find, like it wasn't hard to find Destroy Lonely and the whole Opium gang that Playboy Cardi built. He built a community. He built a community of like just crazy ass little kids. So I think like building community, like Baby Kid wasn't hard to find. he built a community. It was like they were very off, but he built a community. Like, so I think like if anything, like literally like don't hang out with just your two friends on campus. Like move around and actually build a community of people who are in that same mind space and actually start, when you say build the product, but when you're building a product, you want everybody to support your product. So as they're supporting your product, you should be supporting their product as well. And that helps build the community. So I think like, as far as numbers, like we've gone from like when we signed Big X, he had 500 monthly listeners. So like it wasn't a numbers play. Now he's well over 15 million a month. So like it wasn't a numbers play. It was like we believed in the sound of it. So I think like if you have a dope sound, continue to perfect your craft, but also build community. And like another thing about I want to emphasize this with building community. Like when an artist builds a real community, like you're going to find a cameraman that's going to understand like your vision and be able to do dope things for you. Because you have somebody in your community that now wants to be a director or wants to do photography. And they're going to find it like as they talk and they're creative with you, they're going to create your brand and your look for you. You're going to find somebody who's like, hey, I'm trying to be a stylist. Like, let me set you up some fly shit. It don't got to be expensive. I'm gonna set you up some fly stuff. You're gonna find somebody who's really dope at digital marketing, and all are on the same. Especially in college, they're all on the verge of trying to get their path and walk their career down. So I think in building that community, don't think about just building community in your music community. Build the actual community across the board. Like there needs to be a farmer, there needs to be a electrician, there needs to be a construction man. Like there needs to be somebody that does literally everything, because now we'll find that because it's dope. Like the product is now fully put together.
You know something that harkens back to a conversation I was just having today. The idea that now when it comes to building products in this particular climate, that we're starting to see how consumers are able to build the products that they want, as long as there's someone who's able to offer the facilitation of that. And it's this thought process that came about, like your community has way more power in the creation of what they're looking for themselves. They have way more power now, as long as there's someone that can be a facilitator of that. And you're in a way, you're describing that same thing. Like some building community is just as important in developing that artist as a business as is the artist intentionally wanting to develop themselves as a business. It has to be like hand in hand. And that's kind of what I'm getting from now. My question to you would be, in that, what kind of artist businesses do you like to be involved in? Like, what are your favorite? Well, one of the ones that have been most successful for you, is it those like huge shining star artists that just they light up the night, or are you the type of person who's like, I want to get someone who can play multiple roles in the industry, not just the one that they started with, if they have versatility? Like, what do you typically look for?
I mean, for me in particular, I think so. That's also that kind of goes into the idea of like how you measure your success. I never measured my success on being like of course everybody wants an artist that goes number one. Like there's certain things, like certain metrics that you want to hit. For me, I never measured my success on having a superstar artist, because like the reality of it is, and this is for like anybody that's aspiring to work in the music business. If you're not an artist, like you can assume many roles in the music business as a publisher, as an administrator, as a manager, as a fucking copywriter. Like you can go down the line of different things you can do, right? But as an artist, artists come and go. Like they have a shelf life, right? There's only so many that have been survived. Like literally, like Snoop Dogg has 57 lives. Like you gotta think about LL Cool J, 37 lives. Like artists, unless an artist, like you haven't heard about an artist that's been around for 20, 30 years, because one, hip hop is a fairly young genre. But then on top of that, people pivot. People get older, they start having kids, they start doing other things, and they lose interest in doing it. So like for me, I always like my mindset was, for me to be successful is every 3 years, if I'm on something new that's hot in the market, then I know that I'm like, I'm not losing my ear, but I'm still have my finger on the pulse, and I can continue to do dope things. And I can continue to pivot and do whatever I want to do in the business. So like for me, I mean, if I get a number one artist, cool. If I don't, cool. Grammys, cool. If I don't, cool. But I know for sure that with my skill set, I have a very niche skill set that it's a dime a dozen. Like it's almost like there's a difference between the NFL and college football. Where if I'm in the NFL, like I made the 53-man roster for a reason.
Mm.
So
Right.
like, you know, I'm in that space now where like my level of success, like I am on my, I'm not gonna say I'm on my way out of the business, but I'm also in a space now where I'm looking for the next generation of executives that I can coach up and say, hey, you should look at it this way, because I looked at it this way and then I got to this point. You should look at it this way and start because I can see the skill set that you have. You should probably try to hone in on that, because that's gonna be more important in 10 years, or that'll be more important in 5 years, and you'll be able to get here, here, and here. But you have to like, everybody has to like, before you even get into this business, identify what your level of success is and where you want to go in the business, and then from there, make your decisions.
That is extremely poignant, and I think a good way to kind of wrap this up for people that are kind of in those kind of burgeoning steps in their career as an artist in any field. Are there certain kind of like first step metrics that they should be aiming to hit when they're very, very early on? So obviously every artist wants to be number one. It's something everybody either want to be number one on the billboards or getting their first Grammy, that kind of thing, some kind of high kind of echelon recognition of talent. But in those early steps, is there something that is very attainable that a very small team with a very limited budget could kind of be working towards as an example that would generally benefit just about everybody?
Get a mentor and go to the ASCAP, go to BMI, like go, actually those offices are public offices. Go to those offices and talk to the heads of creative, talk to those, like go to those places. Like if your artist is signed to one of those PROs, go talk to them, because they actually have opportunities. They have a lot of internship programs. They offer mentorship programs, like, and they'll actually plug you in with different, all the executives have to talk to BMI and ASCAP, because we have artists that are signed there. So like if you're looking for a mentor, like I pick up the phone all the time and call my homies over there, and they'd be like, hey, this person's doing X, Y, and Z. You should meet this person. So like, create mentorship, but also like network smart. Like don't go to a music conference and expect to meet the head of the fucking label. Probably not gonna happen. And like, don't try to like, don't send me 1,000 DMs like, hey bro, I heard you say I need a mentor, like, because that's not really like, I'm probably not gonna check my DM and go by that. But if I see you pop up at 5 or 6 different events, mind you, these are like the most low key of things. Like you pop up 5, 6 different events, and we constantly build a repertoire with each other and build like we have a reverence for each other. Now it's like, hey, I got you. Like, what you need? What you need help with X, Y, and Z? Cool. I pick up the phone randomly and call somebody to look out for you. So like, just build mentorship, like get a mentor, and then like actually network smart.
Makes a lot of sense. Juju, thank you so much for joining us. I think that is a great way for us to kind of send this off, give people some very attainable goals to get into. You got to get your face card out there. As always, thank you all for watching this broadcast. We will see you next week, where we are going to also still be keeping up with the curriculum that we're teaching in these classes. Remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and next to that subscribe button, make sure you hit that little bell. That'll notify you the next time we have a video dropping. We will be having more amazing creatives just like Juju joining this channel again. And Juju, we hope to have you back. Obviously, there's a lot that these students can learn from you and your years of expertise.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Until next time, brothers, take care.